From the Saharan winds that whisper through Algeria to the stone-hewn echoes of great Zimbabwe, from the woven textures of West African style to the digital rhythms of East Africa's innovation, this is Africa, moving, making, rising. Since 2011, we have listened to voices across languages and landscapes, to stories woven by makers and markets, to a continent defining itself on its own terms. We are Brand Africa. Born on Africa Day, the Brand Africa 100, Africa's best brands, began as a declaration that African choices matter, that African brands belong in our homes, on our streets, in our dreams. These are not just brands, they are movements. They are footprints of belief, etched in food and fashion, in banking and beauty, in healing, in travel, and in trade. They reflect us, serve us, honor us, and carry us forward. Because every bottle shared, every shoe worn, every signal sent is a story of how we see ourselves and how we wish to be seen. We believe in a brand-led African renaissance, one that uplifts, includes, and inspires, where homegrown imagination meets global excellence, and our people shape prosperity from possibility. This is not just a ranking, it's a rhythm, a mirror, a movement, a story of identity, of urgency, of rising, of Africa. Welcome to Brand Africa, Africa's best brands.
The Minister of Information, Communication and Technology, Honorable Emma Theophilus, Founder and Chairman of Brand Africa, Tebe Ikalafeng, as well as the CEO of Paragon Group and National Convener of Brand Africa Namibia, Lazarus Jacobs, distinguished invited guests, ladies and gentlemen, good morning. I think we can try that again, considering we're celebrating brands today. The Namibian Good Morning brand is much louder than that. Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. Good morning. Much better. Now, today, we are welcoming you to an experience of excellence, innovation, and celebration. Today, we gather under the banner of Brand Africa to honor the brilliance, resilience, and impact of Namibia's most outstanding brands, the trailblazers that are shaping our economy, defining our culture, and inspiring the next generation of greatness. From homegrown heroes to global contenders, these brands embody the spirit of Namibia, bold, dynamic, and unapologetically authentic. They don't just sell products, they tell our stories, elevate our nation, and prove that the Namibian excellence shines on the world stage. So as we raise the energy in the room, let us amplify the applause when it's time to give out the awards and celebrate the visionaries who make Namibia proud. Welcome to Brand Africa's celebration of Namibia's best brands. You can give us a round of applause. Before we do, of course, have the partners' remarks as a welcoming for all of our guests here today, a few house rules. I kindly ask that because the program is really, really short and straight to the point, we minimize movement in and out of the venue. Also, when you are given an award, for those of you who will be lucky enough to get on the stage this morning, please be reminded that each of you are expected to give a 30-second acceptance speech. Thank goodness for ChatGPT, nobody should struggle. Last but not least, breakfast will be served after the award ceremony is completed, and of course, networking will then occur then. With that said, I'd like to invite Lazarus Jacobs onto the stage for the partners' remarks. Let's welcome him.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. They're always the first rule of public speaking is they say don't start a speech with an apology or an excuse. And I have both. The problem with when you reach my age, I'm that age now where I can talk about when I was young. The problem when you reach my age, you run out of glasses. So I have glasses for sunglasses, I have reading glasses, and I have glasses to see. So now today, I forgot my reading glasses. That's why I have this big computer in front of me. And the funny thing is I'm going to have to take off my glasses to be able to see, although I don't have my reading glasses. Does that make sense? That's what midlife does to you. Ladies and gentlemen, it's really, truly an honor to be here. And like Josie said, this is a celebratory event. This is not a memorial service. So I hope we're going to have a good time here this morning. Before I get into my remarks, I just want to give you a little story. About, was it 2001, 2002, we were working, my company was working on a brand here in Namibia. And we had to do a presentation for this particular company. And there was a consultant who came all the way from South Africa who was teaching us, we had to do a workshop with us about branding. When this consultant saw me, we've never met, he just shouted and said, "You must be Lazarus." And I said, "Yes, I am." And I said, "How did you know I'm Lazarus?" He said, "Well, whoever described you to me described it to a T. You are short, skinny, and you talk a lot." And that's, well, it was Hilda. So, and that's how my friendship with Tebe Ikalafeng started, way back in 2001. So, we started this business relationship, which turned into a friendship, which then also developed into a brotherhood. So much so that Tebe is the godfather of my son. You can applaud, come on. Says we are here celebrating partnerships. So now, why we're here, in 2010, South Africa was hosting the World Cup. And Tebe, I was in South Africa, and Tebe told me, "Laz, I have this dream and I have this vision that we need to do more about brands in Africa." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Look, the whole world is converging into South Africa. But because with FIFA and all these companies that are coming to Africa, because South Africa was hosting the World Cup for Africa, not just for South Africa." He said, "Our brands are very silent. So I want to start something to celebrate and honor homegrown brands." When he was telling me this story, I said, it didn't really make a lot of sense to me until he explained his vision to me in detail. So much so that when he started Brand Africa, and he's going to talk more about it, I started buying into this concept. And I said to him, "Tebe, whatever it is that you do, we need to bring Brand Africa to Namibia." That's how our business relationship started. And that's how Paragon became a partner. It's a relationship which has stood the test of time for me for the past 8-9 years. I've gone to the Johannesburg Stock Exchange when we announced the best brands in Africa in Johannesburg. I went to Egypt with Tebe. It is a relationship, and I really, really hope that a lot of you who are seated here tonight or this morning will really buy into this whole thing. This is not about Paragon only. This is about all the brands in Namibia, and I really, really hope that many of you who are seated here tonight, this morning, sorry, I keep saying tonight because it's dark, sorry. I hope that many of you who are seated here, after this event, you will come to me or come to Tebe and say, "How can we get involved?" One thing that really comes to mind here is, since we are celebrating African brands, one image that came to my mind when I was preparing for this morning, it was the African wild dog. The African wild dog is one of the best hunters in the animal kingdom. They work in groups and they hunt together. Do you know why? Because they know they can only eat what they hunt. And it's the same thing with all of us here who are seated here this morning. No brand can grow on its own without the partnership of other brands. As owners of brands, as communicators of these brands, we can only eat what we are hunting. Somebody said this is the century, the African century. I buy into Tebe's vision that we can only build this continent one brand at a time. So for those of you who made it here this morning, For those of you who are brand champions for Namibian brands, I really want to give yourself a good round of applause. Having said that, I'm truly, really, it was an honor to host, or it's an honor to host our Minister of ICT. When we asked her to come in and officiate at our event to be our keynote speaker, she did not hesitate because she really, really understands what is the importance of championing African brands because she's a communicator. I always tell people she's the principal communicator of our country. Honorable Minister, we honor and we thank you for your presence this morning. Namibia would not have been Namibia if we did not have brand champions, if we did not have people who believe in this whole thing called Namibia. I really want us to really stand up right now and just take a moment of silence for two Namibian brand champions, Dr. Hage Geingob and the late Sem Noyoma. Just a small moment of silence there. Thank you. We really honor and we thank those great Namibians who have championed the Namibian flag and by virtue of that, the Namibian brand. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to come to our speaker, Dr. Thebe Ikalafeng. He's a visionary founder and chair of Brand Africa. He's recognized globally as Africa's foremost branding authority. He has worked with iconic brands across the continent and around the world. He has traveled in every country on the African continent. Every country on the African continent with one consistent message. Africa's narrative must be defined by Africans through excellence, through purpose, and through pride. But one thing that we forgot here to mention here is he also summited Mount Kilimanjaro. Because he said that's the highest peak in Africa, and he must go there so that he can have a clear view of Africa. How many of you have summited Mount Kilimanjaro? So he has been named amongst the 100 most influential Africans, the 100 most influential creators of African descent, and the 100 most reputable Africans. His honors include multiple lifetime achievement awards, honorary doctorates, and the respect of the entire African continent. Please join me in welcoming my friend, my brother, and the founder and chair of Brand Africa, Dr. Thebe Ikalafeng.
Thank you, good morning. You did say it's not a typical Namibian morning. Good morning, Namibia. I say. So, I'm going to walk you through a quick journey before we get into the main results. I think what I want to do is to give you a texture of the rest of the continent. But before that, to give an idea of the process that we follow every time we get to. I'm going to ask my team at the back, when I point up, they point forward. We're doing the old tradition, the African way. I'm always asked how we're going to change this content. Lazarus painted it so well, that we're going to change it through brands, because there's no other way to do this other than brands. We're going to do it just once, and it'll be fine, I think. When you see my finger going up, you know we're moving forward. You got me? That's it. So we started this Lazarus painted it well, and you've seen throughout the ages how many people, what type of people have been there, whether it's a Dambisa Moyo, whether it is Vijay Mahajan, who wrote Africa Rising, that everybody started talking about. All of them have been part of the Brand Africa agenda. And last week, I'll talk about what we did in a couple of weeks ago. So just to give an insight a little bit about how the process works, they'll catch up, don't worry. So it's the cover story of every African business for the last, since 2013. You'd have probably seen it in the African business that's just come out now. And how do we determine this? Because that's always the question. People always say, Lazarus and Tebe, they sit there in a corner and they come up with names, ini, mini, mo. Let's give it to this one. That's not how it happens. It's a very protracted process that we go through. First, we go through, I'll come to the countries in a minute, but it's the 31 countries this year, and collectively they account for 85% of the world's population and GDP. We go out on fieldwork, and the fieldwork is a multiple of things. It's either face-to-face, mobile, or web. And the reason we do that is if you go to other countries like North Africa, they don't trust this phone business. They're thinking, there's something happening. Why are they asking me questions on the phone? So there we do a combination of face-to-face. But in many other countries, including in Namibia, we do both. So we did a face-to-face and we did a mobile to integrate the results, and we look at how the rest of the continent looks at Namibia. So that's how we arrive at the results. And then we end up, we take all that into a pot. And I'm going to come to the pot. I think this next slide. Let me go to the next slide first before I'll come to that in a minute. So who helps us to pull this together? We've got Kanta, which is the biggest research company in the world. Geopol, the biggest mobile research company in the world. Then we work with our regional partners to help amplify the results. We got Oxygen here to help us collect to amplify the results here. We've got Integrate in Morocco. We've got Analysis in Mauritius, and we've got GoPinion in Algeria. So just to amplify the results. So for many countries, we do a combination of both, as I've said before. Then all that comes into a big pot. Then we have to distill this pot. Let me show you what is in this pot. What is in this pot is, first you have to look at 31 countries coming into this pot. 31 countries. Out of those 31 countries, we get over 150,000 brand mentions. 150,000 brands. You're like, how are we going to arrive at 100? 150,000 brands, and out of those 150,000, there's about 5,630, I think, with 5,930 which are unique. So 150,000, because people mention the same thing differently. They say Apple with an E, then Apple with an A, then Apple with an AE. So now there's 3 mentions, but we know what they're talking about. Talk about Apple. Depends whether you speak Oshuambo or you speak English. So the spellings change, but we try and consolidate them all into one thing, Apple. So we take all those into 5,900. Now you say, but how do you compare Nigeria with Namibia? Because honestly, there's 300 million people versus our 3, roughly. So clearly the Nigerians are going to trap us. Well, that's where we now talk about, the researchers will talk about weighted average. So now we take all this research, this data, we create a weighted average to be able to compare each country with another. So they're comparable. So that's how we arrive at that. So don't worry, Nigerians didn't take over. We reduced them all to our 3 million. so we can compare each other. So we take all that, and out of that, we then reduce it to 100 for every country, and 100 for the whole continent. I thought it's important to give you a bit of a context about how we arrive at all this. And then we ask them about, I should have said the questions we ask. We ask them 6 key questions. We ask them a question, what's your most admired brand? We don't say anything, just what's your most admired brand? We're on the top of mind. What comes up to the mind? We ask Namibians, we ask every other country. Then you see your brands will come out in South Africa, will come out in Botswana, come up in different countries. What's your most admired brand? Then we realized after 2015 or 2013, that, you know what, African brands are not coming up. Let's ask the question now. What's your most admired African brand or your most admired local brand? Because now we wanted to be clear that I want to see what brands come up. Then we realized that, they don't talk about money and news. They're like, news, who listens to news? And banks are just a problem. That's how they look at them. So we're like, let's ask a question. What's your most important? Because media drives the narrative. Financial services is important because it's an enabler. And we wanted to make sure that we have an eye that contributes to society and the environment. Because sustainability is a big question. Then we said, we get it. Now we say, which brand has a contribution to sustainability part? So so those are the questions that we do. So you may ask yourselves, what sets us apart? What sets us apart is quite simple. One is consumer-based. So we're not asking B2B brands. If a B2B brand comes up, it comes up. But as consumer, we're not asking business. We're asking the people in this. The people. No company that's doing research owns a brand. No company, and that's how we've got multiple checkpoints. So we've got a local brand like Oxygen and a Kanta and a Geopol, but then we filter that through. And then it's brand neutral. Why is it brand neutral? No company in here today that's going to be ranked has paid a cent. And the reason we do that is we want to be very objective. We want this not to come across as, okay, because this company has paid money, so now they're coming up. So I've spent $1 million American dollars in the last 10 or so years in this. So I sponsored over $1 million of here. I could have had a farm somewhere, I could have had a car somewhere, but I decided, let me rather plant the seed into the future of the continent than the seed into something I'm going to forget and I'm going to leave behind. So you may also ask, but why are you asking brand admiration? Why don't you ask things like, who eats my brand? The consumers, the usage. See, the thing with usage is interesting. Because with usage, I can dump a lot of food here, and I'll ask you, what did you eat? Then you'll tell me, well, I ate Top Score, Millie Meal, I banked at Bank Windhoek, I used MTZ to talk, because I've dumped them in front of you. So we don't measure, because you can buy usage. Can buy usage, because usage sometimes also is because I have no other option, so I just have to use it to ask a question. So we ask admiration. We ask admiration for 3 reasons. So the first reason is, as I've said, it's a consumer base, and it reflects the admiration, the aspiration. It's what we say, sir, I don't know if you are into hip hop, but Kanye, when he was still normal, Kanye West, when he was still normal, he had great songs. And one of his songs was, Wait Till I Get My Money Right. So you're going to see that some of the brands are going to reflect what people would like to get when they get their money right. So it's really how they feel about the brands. It so reflects meaning and all this, but it also reflects culture. It captures our cultural relevance. So that's what people say to me. But how come more than 10% of the rankings are Louis Vuitton, Hermes, and all those things? Do you want to tell me Namibians are so rich? They all drive Birkin, they all have Birkins and Ferraris and all those. I said, wait till I get my money right. That's what I'm going to get. That's what admiration is about. So it speaks to that. Brands matter for a couple of reasons, then I'm going to get into it. They matter because brands create jobs. So if it's just normally, there's nothing. If you add a brand into it, it creates an industry. Industry creates jobs. The jobs helps us to collect tax. The tax helps us to build Namibia. And we build Namibia with our own money rather than borrowing money. That's why brands matter. Because otherwise, if we don't create our own brands, the money leaves the country. So it's as simple as that. So try to not make it too complicated. So here's a quick highlights of what we've learned from the continent. So what we've learned from the continent over the last 10 years, only 20% of the brands that Africans admire are made in Africa. So Africans don't like anything made in Africa. So I don't want to start the morning in the sober, but Africans don't buy Africa. And that's why we do this. As Lars has painted out, and he's seen this journey because he's been part of it since the beginning. 20%, only 20%. And the brands that they admire, they love Nike. Not because I was chief marketing officer for Nike for 6 years, but they just like Nike. They think just do what works for them. They think impossible is nothing if you're in Europe. And they think you must go to Samsung if you want anything that works. And they think that if you want to talk, sorry, I saw people from MTC, so we must be nice about... but that's just wait till MTC gets their money right. They'll dominate the whole continent. So our goal is to have 50% of the most admired brands come from Africa by 2050, sorry. That's what we want to do. So I've done it the way politicians do it, because you know politicians in 1963, I apologize, Minister, but Minister said, let's pretend she's not here, let's talk about politicians. So you know what the politicians do? They go to the African Union, and when they get there, they come up with what you call the 2063 Agenda 2063. But now some of us here, because some of us left after high school, we didn't leave school after high school, we just went one more class. just to be able to understand this big English. Then when we go through 2063, we realize, hi man, this is what Kwame Nkrumah said most in 1963. It's exactly the same thing. Kwame Nkrumah says, let's open up the borders, let's have our own money, let's have our own security, let's have, it's like, and now the politicians, 2063, in 2013, because I was in Ethiopia then, and they say, we now have agenda 2063. What politicians do better than anybody, they kick this can so far into the future because they know none of us will be alive to hold them accountable. But we love them, we'll vote for them again. Emma for president. She'll be alive at least, we know that. She may not look like a Paul Biya, but she'll be alive. So Paul Biya is 92, he's running for president for Cameroon. He's 92 this year. When he was in France this year, he didn't know where he was. But Macron is happy because he's got somebody he can point left, go right, go forward. So what have we learned? This year is crazy. Now the highlights of Africa, then we can move on to Namibia quickly. The highlights for Africa, it's gone down. Only 11% of the brands that Africans admire are made in Africa. So in other words, just 10% of what you see. Folks, this is a very simple exercise. Just look at yourself today and start counting. And just say, oh, so the suit is not from here. The glasses are not from here. The shoes are not from here. Except for a minister who came all in Africa. And you as well, yes. We recognize you. And most of them come from, 40% come from Europe, and then 28% come from America. America used to be higher, but things have happened. I was in America yesterday, so I'm going to be very nice. And I had to behave myself going into the US on Friday because I wanted to make sure that they did stop me when they asked me questions. What are you doing here? Subject for next time. So what we've also learned is that what we did this year, we also tried to look at G20 brands. Regional brands. So who dominates us? 81% of the brands that Africans love come from G20 countries. That includes South Africa in the list. 20% comes from BRICS. So DJ T said, if I hear anything about BRICS here, you're not getting a visa. So, but now we had 20% only, so maybe Africans are saying, yeah, let's not go that way. Next. I've gone too far. Next, please go. Yeah, let me go to this one. So we then did something else. We also looked at influence. We wanted to understand what are the countries which are very influential in the continent. America, if you look at the number of brands, America, China, and UK, if you just look at the number of brands. But if you add the FDI, America, China, and UK. But now if you do something different, you're like, wait, the GDPs are not the same. Let us now weight the GDPs. When you do a weighted GDP, UK is running the show. No wonder all of us are speaking English, right? France is here. Finland, number 3. Finland, for all those I think it's as big as Windhoek. So what have we learned about the story about Finland? They only have one brand that you and I know, Nokia. It shows you that it doesn't matter the size of the country. You can become influential in the world. You just have to pick your area of strength that you want to drive. So it's a matter of asking yourself, what are 2 or 3 biggest brands in Namibia? Can we drive them to tell a bigger African story, to tell a big global story? And to me, that's the big lesson in that. Then you ask the question, what is the most, which country contributes to a better Africa? I apologize. But you know what's so interesting? Even in the Namibian results, I'll just go ahead for 1 second. Namibians did not rank Namibia as number 1. We need to do something. We need to work harder. Minister, I know you're working on brand Namibia, but we need to make sure that Namibians rank Namibia higher. Basotho, but Namibians rank South Africa higher. Basotho rank America higher. I'm confused. Only 68% of the countries surveyed say they rank their own country higher and they rank Africa higher. We have a problem. The brands contributing to a better Africa, MTN number one, where it's in 20 countries, 300 million consumers. So I think you can understand what is done. And this question is, and then the brands contributing to a better Africa. Everything goes better with Coca-Cola. You know, Miss Coca, that's a real thing. That's how we test it anyway, if it works right. And then the top 10 leading brands in Africa, Nike for 8 years in a row. M10 is the only country brand at number 10. This one drove me mad. I asked the young people now, I asked the Gen Zs, what's your most admired brand? Do you know, I thought maybe they'll be going more shasho, you know, like all the young brands, they hip. They're like, please, Nike. They was like, okay, let's go a little older. Millennials, Nike. I said, now let's ask the old people. The old people says, as long as I can get a fridge, an aircon, a TV on an installment in my house, and they all work, I'm going for Samsung. Because I can't eat Nike. Do you get what I'm saying? The older people go for the things which are much more functional. The younger people go for the things which are hipper. But I was hoping to see younger brands. And across the continent, it's crazy. That's pretty much the same. I mean, that's a continental split in way. Where do we find our biggest brands? Tech, 18%. Luxury, 12%. I told you, Mos. Luxury. You know, I was moving around the continent. I've seen Louis Vuittons that even Louis Vuitton is looking to invest in. Like with the LV turned upside down, I'm like, yo, that's out of the box thinking. With the Nikes facing the other way, like, yo, that's thinking out of the box. Do you know what I mean? So that's where we headed. And then number 3 is cars. We don't have cars. We've got a car in Uganda. We've got a car in Nigeria. We've got a car in Ghana. Katanga in Ghana. Innocent in Nigeria. And Chira in Uganda. We don't have cars, but people have to go to work. So we have to think about that. So before we get into the Namibian, are we ready to get into Namibian things? I think we're going to get into Namibian things, but before we get into there, I think to lay the foundation for what we are going to see, I'm going to hand over to you.
Thank you very much, Tebe. Unfortunately, you might have created a bit of a problem for us. You see, when you started mentioning Louis Vuitton handbags and the things are upside down, the NAMRA team over there got very excited. Please, Mr. Sam Shivute, leave our handbags alone. We are sure that they look good with our outfit, whether they are counterfeit or not. Nonetheless, we appreciate, of course, that review and taking us down the journey, because it always helps to have context and understand how awards are given, but also how you determine what exactly is an impactful, powerful brand. Now, to cement our event today in the award ceremony, it's important that we hear from our keynote speaker this morning. It is, of course, my esteemed pleasure and honor to introduce a dynamic leader, a visionary, and a driving force behind Namibia's digital and economic transformation, our esteemed keynote speaker. Now, Honorable Emma Theophilus, Namibia's Minister of Information, Communication and Technology, is not just a leader in title, but in action as well. At her very tender age of 21, I've decided, she has already redefined what it means to lead with innovation, passion, and a deep commitment to empowering Namibia's future. Her work in advancing digital inclusion, supporting local entrepreneurship, and fostering an environment where Namibia's brands can thrive on the global stage has been nothing short of inspirational. From championing youth empowerment to spearheading policies that bridge that digital divide, it is important for us to notice that Honorable Theophilus embodies the spirit of progress, the very spirit that we are here to celebrate today, which is the best Namibian brands. This morning, she will provide us with insight on how technology, innovation, and strategic brands for the Honorable Minister of Information, Communication, and Technology.
Thank you very much. Please be seated. Thank you. Josie likes to bully me because she saw me as a very, very young debater since high school. We used to go neck and neck sometimes at the Opens at the University of Namibia and NAST. But those days are over, Josie, please. Please. But thank you very much for inviting me up. Dr. Tebe, thank you very much for being here this morning. Same with Lazarus and everybody else in the room. A very good morning to you all. I see an area of different newsmakers, communicators, very admired friends of Namibia. I'm very happy to see all of you in the room this morning. Ladies and gentlemen, I am thrilled this morning to witness the announcement of Namibia's best brands by Brand Africa themed Made in Namibia, building world-class homegrown brands for jobs, growth, and global influence. And Dr. Tepe, when you are showcasing the results and how the brands have come up, both on the African continent in Namibia, I think something struck with me, and that it's around consumerism. It's what brands we consume. And here in Namibia, we have, through the Ministry of Trade, a strategy called Growth at Home Strategy, where there is a deliberate ask of the Ministry of Trade and Industrialization then to say, when you go into a shop, look out for the Made in Namibia brand and choose that one as opposed to any other. So it is deliberate that I'm dressed this way today, to say that at some point in our closets, in our shoe closets, in our handbag collection, we must try to find a way to have one or two or three and more items that are made in Namibia. So thank you for clearly showcasing that in the results of the surveys that you had in terms of the link between the brands we consume and the brands we then advertently admire. Ladies and gentlemen, I am encouraged to see that there is a concerted and deliberate effort in Africa to recognize the critical role that brands play in shaping our country and continent's national identity. This is particularly important because it also shapes our global reputation and economic competitiveness, not to mention the trust built between brands and communities they offer services or products to. And that's important. A brand only builds a reputation, obviously, over time once the consumers that consume that brand actually trust it. And we must endeavor to ensure we build brands that last, brands that people can vouch for no matter where they are from. Admirable brands are companies that are highly respected and considered leaders in their respective industries, known for their strong reputation, built over some time, innovation, and importantly, positive impact on their own employees, their customers, and society. And here I reflect on the Gaza situation. I know it's not a political event, but I think geopolitics has impacted even the way business do business, how economies function. We're getting tariffs left, right, and center by DJT. So it's important to mention. And when the conflict broke out in Gaza on October 9th in 2023, I believe, there was a lot about, what brands are continuously fueling the conflict. What brands are contributing to 15,000 children dying on a yearly basis in Palestine? What brands are contributing to the thousands of lives lost in Palestine? What brands are contributing to the, maiming of children, the highest in the world today in Gaza? And a few of those brands were flagged out. And activists and groups are talking about we need to boycott some of these brands because they are not building on the blueprint of the world of peace and security that we want to have globally. So this is very important, that brands do truly contribute not only to the employees and the services and products they offer, but also in shaping the society and the global village that we live in. Ladies and gentlemen, as beautiful as our country is, we unfortunately compete with the rest of the continent and the world to place our uniqueness on the global map. There is therefore an urgent need to collectively produce a unique country brand proposition that will set us apart and importantly define who we are. I am pleased to inform you that the Ministry of ICT, in collaboration with the National Namibia Investment Promotion and Development Board, have already begun the process of creating a national brand called Brand Namibia. And consultations are currently underway to help us shape our national identity. And this is something we sat down with the various Namibian brands and homegrown Namibian companies that have been built. And we're asking, what is our national identity? What makes us Namibian? What values do we espouse that make us unique on the continent and the world? When we go out there, and I like to say this a lot, when we go out there at conferences that we attend as brands and companies, at meetings, at summits, even at Afro Nation recently, can you tell a Namibian from the crowd? You know, what makes us so unique that we can even find each other? Do we have a collective accent so that as soon as I hear somebody speak behind me and I'm at an airport somewhere, can I quickly turn around and say, that sounds like home? You know, so we must find this national identity. I know there are principles and values that are, you know, inched in our constitution, in our preamble, that we all say that these are Namibian values and principles. But beyond that, what is our national identity? And can we build that together and strengthen it together? So ladies and gentlemen, I encourage this team to consult as many Namibians as possible so that we can have the views of the majority of Namibians, because brand Namibia must be reflective of who we all are. We can't build a brand and the average Namibian, you know, can't feel it, can't, you know, relate to it. And we are, as Namibians, not the same. We have such a diversity that must be brought together. So we must all, when Brand Namibia is up and running, all of us must feel some connection to that Brand Namibia. Ladies and gentlemen, I am informed that this flagship initiative called Brand Africa Best Brands was launched in 2011, as Dr. Tebe has indicated, as well as Lazarus, and that is the continent's most comprehensive, consumer-led and research-based ranking of Africa's most admired brands. I am further encouraged that the results that will be announced this morning have been independently led on behalf of Brand Africa by Geopol, as indicated in Qatar, two of the world's most likely respected research firms, and supported by original partners such as Integrate, GeoOpinion, and Oxygen. I look forward to the announcement that will take place in just a few minutes, where Namibian corporates will be recognized in various most admired brands categories by industry and the leadership, and special awards. Congratulations to all the winners in advance. My wish is that you share your winning brand recipe stories, because so that we can encourage a national culture of brand building, brand sharing, and brand inspiration. And I think this is very important because, as indicated, when you think of a brand, it immediately takes you to the country. And so when you succeed as a Namibian brand, surely Namibia succeeds as a country as well. So let us collaborate where that is concerned. In conclusion, ladies and gentlemen, the Ministry of ICT and the wider government of the Republic of Namibia will continue to ensure that we lay a solid foundation in which ICT can thrive, so that it aids innovation and transformation that will enable and benefit all Namibians for homegrown excellence and, of course, homegrown brands that can take Namibia to the world. Thank you very much for your kind attention.
We thank the Honorable Minister for that riveting and very, very motivating keynote address. And with that said, I need not add anything else except that the time we have all been waiting for has finally arrived. I hope your ChatGPT sessions have ended. You have finalized your speech. For those of you who might be having sweaty palms, there are napkins on the table. Either way, I'm glad to announce that nothing will stand in between you and claiming the award that you rightfully deserve this morning. With that said, I'd like to invite back onto the stage Tebe as well as Lazarus to present the awards under the Most Admired Brands category.
Thank you so much. We're going to do the same shift. I'll point, you move. Cool. So, what's interesting from a Namibian perspective is that more than 7 in 10 Namibians believe in Namibia. So I like that. So at least 70% of Namibians believe in Namibia. The only problem is only 41% believe in African brands. But that's not bad, by the way. That's better than South Africa. That's better than most African countries. I think Namibia leads here. So it means Namibians at least believe in Namibia, in African brands. And if you look at Namibia, it's one of the few countries nearing the 50% mark that we're talking about. And that's what we want to advocate. And you can see an example here. I mean, so I hope you can see them at the bottom. Just across the continent, you can see where how Namibia is. Namibia and Botswana and Lesotho, the 3 countries are leading in that space. Next. I think I spoke about it, 41%, but what matters to you is this part we need to work harder on. Only 17% of the brands that Namibians admire are made in Namibia. So the minister spoke so articulately about the importance of when the Namibian brand succeeds, Namibia succeeds. Because brands shape that perception about the country, competitiveness, innovativeness, entrepreneurial, and all those. That's what these brands do. And the brands from Namibia, where do they come from? America and Europe, and then Africa. And then the G20 brands from Namibia, 78% come from G20, 26 from BRICS, and 41, as I said, from Africa. Don't add them up. People with arithmetic, they're like, ja, maar as ek 26, 78 plus 41 is die 100 nie. Doesn't work that way. Just from a G20, 81%. Because people have said that to me before, they're like, yeah, but your arithmetic, it's like Jacob Zuma. So let's go through by category now. So do we have help on the right-hand side? Thank you. Oh, they said you'll be wearing a miniskirt. Sorry. Thank you, sir. Let's go by categories. Let's start with alcoholic beverages. Number 3. So I told you what happens earlier, right? Sometimes consumers know, sometimes a holding company is very strong. And sometimes the brand is strong. Because people say to me in South Africa, but Tiger Brands, I've never bought anything Tiger Brands, but Tiger Brands always features among that. So it means that the strength of the holding company is just as strong. Then number 2 is Tafelberg, and the most admired alcoholic beverage in Namibia. We're waiting for somebody. Windhoek! Can we have a representative for Windhoek? All beers are on Windhoek today. I hope you brought beers for everybody.
Nantenkweta chiketo ja chikomo penduka ye Hakweto chirongo hoshiwa ye Nkodi machike nandoto ikova fisbeyi Hayeswa kompunda kokuvare munda mwimu nokuvare novusteine ule wapi mu lele wake as far as the eye can see rike kilerina mile mono mule fatule barui le balini mono mo Namibia ankwari chine yuko kure ke umbola mimi wange nkwepe nande uje ko wamboko kule to yachike ko busteine akweto shilongo shiwa utalo miti na banu utalo banu no miti akweto na shiko bawa chokai yakai japan mono ko monate fela uchakai uyakai japan.
Good morning, everyone. I'm not going to introduce myself because I have a number for you this morning. 2,580. That's the number of employees that make it possible for Top Score to be ready for consumption for each and every one of you. So this award belongs to them, but equally important to you and everybody out there that consumes the product. So thank you so much.
Amazing. Then it comes to retail, most admired retail brands. Number 3, Choppies. Number 2, Spa. Do you know I see Spa everywhere else in the world? Because I thought Spa was South African or something. I don't know where it's from, but I've seen it all over the world. It's Dutch, right? It's the Dutch brand's done very well. But we know Choppies is next door. The Indians are working very hard there. They're selling stuff. Number 1. Checkers. So what we've done with this, what we've done with the rankings, we've looked at Namibian, non-Namibian. So we started non-Namibian.
nantenkweta chiketo ja chikomo penduka ye hakweto chirongo hoshiwa ye Toti machike nandoto ikova fisbei Hayeswa komunda kokuvare Munda mwimu nokuvare novusteine Ule wapi mu lele wake as far as the eye can see Rike kilerina mile mono mule fatile Barui le balini mono mo Namibia ankwari chime yuko kure ke umbola mimi wange nkwepe nande uje ko wamboko kule to yachike ko busteine akweto shilongo shiwa utalo miti na banu utalo banu no miti akweto na shiko bawa chokai yakai japan mono ko monate fela uchakai uyakai japan mono ko monate fela ayo mwana yeah meshiwa ke umola mimi wange nkwepe nande uje ko wamboko kule to yachike ko busteine akweto shilongo shiwa utalo miti na banu utalo banu no miti hakweto na shiko bawa chokai yakai japan mono ko monate fela uchakai uyakai japan mono ko monate fela ayo mwana yeah meshiwa meshiwa halaha.
It's such an honor for me to accept this award on behalf of Brock. This award just shows it encourages to do more and then just promote Namibian brands. It's a sign that what we are doing as Brock is right, and then Namibian trust our brand. That's all from me. Thanks.
When it comes to media, KykNet and Sennuxni. DSTV number 1.
Meshiwa, oh Meshiwa, Mami Meshiwa, oh Meshiwa, Kalahade, Meshiwa, oh Meshiwa, Mami There's a land of wide open spaces, so many, many, many faces. There's a land of wide open spaces,
Feel the moment.
so many beautiful faces. Namibia, oh Nawaroma.
I'd rather say, ciao,
Pakuvale, bakwato shirongo
my
woshikwa,
ministers.
muno fandu peke peke, ofanguno maherero, nkwesa.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. No vakafiri no fandu peke peke.
Yesterday was a bad day for me too.
Takwano Bahayachu,
And I thought PSG is going to win.
Fatilena,
So, at least
the land of wide open spaces. They say, when your soul can rise, you can be at home. Mono Namibia.
Oshilongo chilipokati kedese de limbali, Namibia no Kalahari. Ipuko moyili noko, no miti di modile di modi kupi. Oshilongo kweto shiwa,
Ushakai, we are Kai, Takwano, Mono Fela. Uchakai, we are Kai, Takwano, Mono Fela. Ayo, mama, Ariye.
Kokuleto ya chike kovusteine, akweto shilongo shiwa. Utalo miti na vanu, utalo vanu no miti, akweto na shiko bawa.
Chokai, Yakai, Takwano, Mono Fela. Uchakai, we are Kai, Takwano, Mono Fela. Ayo, mana, yeah, 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 yeah. Meshiwa, oh Meshiwa, Kalahade, Meshiwa, oh Meshiwa, Mami.
Nande uja ko wamboko kuleto ya chike ko vusteine, akweto shilongo shiwa. Utalo miti na vanu, utalo vanu no miti, akweto na shiko bawa.
Chokai, Yakai, Takwano, Mono Fela. Uchakai, Uyakai, Takwano, Mono Fela. Ayo, mana,
Nande uja ko wamboko kuleto ya kompunda,
Mono mule fatile. Barui, Lebanini, Mono Namibia.
ankari shime yuko kure, ke umbola mimi wange nkwepe. Nande uja ko wamboko kuleto ya chike ko vusteine, akweto shilongo shiwa. Utalo miti na vanu, utalo vanu no miti, akweto na shiko bawa.
Chokai, Yakai, Takwano, Mono Fela. Uchakai, Uyakai, Takwano, Mono Fela. Ayo, mana, yeah, 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 yeah.
so we can show them that the customer
Meshiwa,
pick up the award.
oh Meshiwa, Kalahade,
At the bench,
Meshiwa, oh Meshiwa, Mami Meshiwa, oh Meshiwa, Kalahade, Meshiwa, oh Meshiwa, Mami There's a land of wide open spaces, so many, many, many faces. There's a land of wide open spaces, so many beautiful faces. Namibia, oh, now I don't know.
Not only for Bank Windhoek,
So many.
the holding company of Bank Windhoek, who got the third and the first place, but I think it's a moment of national pride, to be honest. I think this is a reflection of the 42-year history of brand building in Namibia by those who came before me. And in particular, Ms. Berenice Hans, our outgoing managing director, who has really been the brand ambassador for Bank Windhoek for the last 9 years. And to the words of our Honourable Minister, it is really proudly made in Namibia. And our employees, Ms. Jacqueline Pak and the marketing and corporate communications team, our employees in the front line, carrying the flag every day with our customers, those supporting from within. This is really remarkable and what we can achieve by working together. And then to our customers, and just to correct you, of which are mostly in front of us, not necessarily FNB, thank you very much for trusting us. Thank you very much for supporting us. And most importantly, that you are loving your bank. In the words of Ms. Hans, Namibia should be a better place because Bank Windhoek is here. And I want to extend it to say, the Namibian brand should be stronger because of the Bank Windhoek and Capricorn Group brands. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. You're right, you saw the claps. They were clapping for the 42 years of being made in Namibian excellence. And the other guys from South Africa didn't pitch. And then comes the insurance. Metropolitan Sanlam. Old Mutual. Do you have the people from Old Mutual? Here we go. Old Mutual.
Beautiful faces. Namibia, oh, now I don't know.
Kakubare, bakwato shirongo woshiwa, munofandu peke peke, ofampono mahere o mkwesa, yeah, no wakafiri no fandu peke peke. Takwano bakhaye chu, le fatilena. The land of wide open spaces, they say, where your soul can rise, you can be at home. Mono mo Namibia. Oshilongo shilipo katike defete limbali.
Today,
And giving Old Mutual.
Ipuko mo ililongo. No miti di modile di modikuki. Oshilongwa kwetu oshiwa.
Ushokai, uyakai, takwano, mono komunati fela. Ushokai, uyakai, takwano, mono komunati fela. Ayo mama, ari yeah. Meshiwa, meshiwa. Halagade, Meshiwa, Meshiwa, Amifese, Meshiwa, Meshiwa, Halagade, Meshiwa, Meshiwa, Amifese. There's a land of wide open spaces, so many, many, many faces. There's a land of wide open spaces, so many, many beautiful faces. Namibia, oh, now I don't know. Check the culture, I say. Only then will you know your way. In those here dark times, you gotta stay true to your roots now. Be proud and stand out. Get out. Say you're Namibian. Chokai, uyakai, takwano, mono homonati fella. Uyakai, uchakai, takwano, mono homonati fella. Ayo, papa. Yeah, 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 yeah. Meshiwa, Meshiwa, Kalahare. Meshiwa, 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 Kalahare. Meshiwa, Meshiwa, there's a land of wide open spaces, so many, many, many faces. There's a land of wide open spaces, so many beautiful faces. Namibia, oh now I don't know.
He's one of us. You know, there's a story by Theodore Roosevelt when he died, and there was a black woman running after the carriage. You probably have heard the story, running after the carriage, crying. They said to her, "Did you know him?" She's like, "No, but he knew me." And the two excellencies knew Namibia, and they fought for Namibia. And that's why we should be proud of. We're going to move into a shorter category, then we're going to ask the minister in a minute to join us to wrap up the rest. But the next three are still Lazarus and I. Next. So what we did, we then asked the questions, what's your most admired African brand? You just say African now, not Namibian. Just African. We want to see how they rank themselves into this brand should be. And we ask them in two ways. One is spontaneous, you just mentioned. That one is they specify. The first one, Windhoek 3, MTC 2, top score. I know you probably said obvious. I've been watching you.
Nantenkweta shiketo da shikomo penduka ye Hakweto chirongo hoshiwa ye Ntoti machike nandoto ipkova fisbeyi Hayeswa komunda kokubare Munda mwimu nokubare no usteinde
Ule wapi mu lele wake as far as the eye can see.
Last year. We do a lot of things. On a monthly basis, we support about 40,000 Namibians with Milli Meal. So yeah, that's a monthly drive that we have throughout the year for Namib Mills. Apart from that, we always have our CSR projects. We have something big coming up that we're going to announce now within the next month. So please keep your phones on our social media platforms for what is coming. Thank you.
Aided recall, Windhoek, Shilongo, MTC.
Rike kilerina mile, mono mule fatile.
I think you've got a brand that's a couple of brands that you can take.
Barui, libalimi, mono Namibia.
And to use MTC.
Ankwari shime yuko kure Ke umbola mimi wange nkwepe Nande vuja ko wamboko kuleto ya chike ko vusteine Hakweto shilongo shiwa Utalo miti na vanu Utalo vanu no miti Hakweta na shiko bawa
Chokai, yakai, takwano, mono homonaki fela. Uchakai, uyakai, takwano, mono homonaki fela. Ayo, mwana. Yeah, 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 yeah. Meshiwa, meshiwa, kalahare. Meshiwa, meshiwa, mami pese. Meshiwa, Meshiwa, Kalahari. Meshiwa, Meshiwa, Mami said. There's a land of wide open spaces, so many, many, many faces. There's a land of wide open spaces, so many beautiful faces. Namibia, oh, now I
Love this category. Brands love it because it now speaks to contribution to society. The brand that contributes to a better society and environment, F&B, Old Mutual, non-Namibian brands. Number one, ShopRite Checkers. And we started splitting the results a few years ago because we wanted to make sure that we see the good balance between what brands which come to our countries and contribute to a better country and our brands that are giving it, and that's why we do that.
Thank you to the community. Thank you to all of you. It's because, as I said, it's because of you make us very proud. And business without customers is not a business. Business without a service is not a business. We are here to serve you guys, as Namibia nation, and you guys make us very proud. We are so happy to have such Namibians who are shopping in our stores. Thank you very much.
Namibian brand that does that, Rosso Uranium, Namib Mills, and the number one brand, MTC. I can make life easy for you. Unless you're going to speak, I can say we'll bring that word to you. Then I'll move it along. But they have to see your hairstyle today. You woke up early. Thank you. John said it?
He said it beautifully. Good morning, everybody. John said it beautifully. As MTC, we want to continue making the connection. Thank you.
Now, the brands that contribute to a better country and a better continent, here we have 5. Vodacom. And you know what's interesting? You may say, but they're not here. But that's how consumers, don't forget what happens, right? Wait till I get my money right, I'm going to bring this one in here as well. Vodacom, MTN, DSTV, ShopRite Checkers, the number one brand. You see. I apologize, I shouldn't, if you knew. Contributing to a better society. Like Lazarus says, brille and pille. Lazarus, I think we need to invite the minister to join us. Because now we need to recognize the brand that across categories does well. And I'll say this quickly as we go through just about the previous brand, because I saw a bit of MTC 2-3 times coming up, and people always say to me, different places, like, why is MTN doing so well? Why is MTC doing so well? Why is Dangote doing well? What is Ethiopian, because I've gone to all those countries already, doing so well? I said, just get yourself better marketing talent and invest in the customers and invest in the country. And make sure your product delivers, your brand delivers on the promises. That's all I can say. You can't ask me 20 questions. The beauty about this study is you can't sponsor it. You can't buy yourself, because people say, can we just maybe hook a brother in with just a... I said, no, we don't hook a brother here. Here you can hook a customer, then we're doing well. The Grand Prix is the brand that across board does well when it comes to contributing to a better society, when it comes to being seen as a brand that contributes to the country, that comes to the brand that dominates in its category, that comes to the brand that represents the best of Namibia. That brand. MTC. I see term is coming. I think let's, as the biggest brand across board, the most admired Namibia brand across board, we'll ask Tim to take a picture. Then we'll ask the rest of the team from MTC to come with all their awards and just take one shot. I think in recognition of just just magnanimous performance by MTC, let's ask John, I forget your name again, Janet. John and Janet, you only get J's at MTC, to join us with the awards, and let's just have a big shot that just shows the power of building a great brand. Who else was missing? There we go. MTC, join us, please. Thank you, Tim. Would you please?
Thank you very much. This was such an iconic picture because it's about showing off an accolade. But this is not what brand building is all about. Brand building is about making a difference in the life of every Namibian. And that is what we should strive for. We hope that our awards and our accolades inspire all of you here to go out there and genuinely build great brands that are going to take our people from A to a better future. Thank you very much.
Congratulations to the MTC team. Phenomenal work. You know, telecommunications are amazing across the continent because they change lives. They enable us to transact, enable us to communicate, they enable us to invest in better communities. And I think that's what we are seeing, we're seeing there. So what we introduced this year across the continent was to celebrate a homegrown brand that has been a benchmark of excellence for at least 50 years. At least 50 years. I know people are looking around like bouncers. I'm under 21. But there are brands which were here before us, and I think, and we love this category because it's really a benchmark category in terms of if you're measuring how long you can build a brand and how great your brand can be. And that brand has been you're going too fast for me. Go back one slide. I wanted to say they've had a legacy of uncompromised quality since 1920. It's a proud Namibian brewing icon that has shared Namibia's spirit of purity, authenticity, craftsmanship with the region and the world. And that brand you now know. Did you not bring your team? You came alone. Should have brought your whole team. We can't drink with you alone. Thank you so much. Please.
I should have brought the whole team. I didn't know we were going to get this. So again, such an honor to accept this prestigious award on behalf of Windhoek Beer. And it just confirms, consistency in our belief for quality, for heritage, for, our 100% real brewing processes. So thank you so much, and thank you, Brand Africa.
Thank you. And now as we close, one of the other things that we introduced a few years ago is to celebrate excellence in the leadership. So in the past, we've recognized leaders from across boards, from the Dangotes of the world, from who's the founder of the Zimbabwean Strive Masiwas of the world. We've recognized, even locally here, we've recognized, I think, Tim in the 3 or 4 years ago, and the contribution of people like Lazarus to the industry. So we recognized a few people over the past years. And the next one we're recognizing is one recognize brands in the public, leaders in the public service, leaders or institutions rather, in the private, public, and non-profit sector, who are contributing to building brands and solutions that shape Namibia's identity, inspire confidence, and advance the continent's development. They are exemplary in governance and exemplary in driving purpose-led leadership and contributing to a prosperous, proudly Namibian, proudly African identity and agenda. The first one we recognize is the award. We recognize One Economy Foundation, Award for Distinguished Leadership in the non-profit sector, in recognition of exemplary citizenship, championing dignity-driven solutions that expand opportunity and transform lives across Namibia. We had real fun debating about which brand will do this, and that did that. She came with the team. She came to play. Let's go to the back. You guys need to go there. Let's go. The short guy in red can stand behind.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, Honorable Minister. This one is for the youth that we serve, and also for our fabulous, fantastic Executive Chairperson, Madam Gainkos, for the work that she's done for the last 10 years. Yes, we are celebrating 10 years, but it also wouldn't have been possible if it wasn't for our partners, all the sectors that we collaborate with, and most importantly, the youth and the community that we serve. And finally, but notwithstanding, the One Economy team is about empowerment. So it wouldn't be right for me to stand up here and accept this without saying thank you to the team. Only a few of us are representing the team here today, but there's a team of wonderful, brilliant minds out there that are doing something good every single day, even while we're here receiving the award.
Someone's got hot fingers, and the next one is for a leader who has been transformational in this country, has contributed to some of the biggest initiatives that have contributed to driving the economy. Next time, yes, fire. And that person we want to recognize today, the young man, Sam, let me just read that. In recognition of excellence as a transformational leader in the public service, driving institutional reforms that are a catalyst for economic development and inspiring the nation brand. Sam.
This one picture with the team, actually
Please go through it. Yeah, I'm also stepping out.
I accept this award with a deep sense of humility and gratitude. Very grateful to the leadership of Brand Africa for giving us these flowers. What you have done and what you have done for all those recipients is grateful. We are very, very grateful for that. You are positively impacting our lives. I'm also very, very grateful to our leadership, the NAMRA board, the Minister of Finance, the President, and all those who make our work very possible. But again, I want to express my heartfelt appreciation to NAMRA stars. NAMRA star, these are men and women in navy blue, white, and a touch of orange, who work in making sure that the government of the Republic of Namibia, the state, is capacitated to deliver on its developmental agenda. We are very humbled to note that more than 95% of Namibia's budget is funded by the revenue collected by Namibia Revenue Agency. We will continue serving with passion. We want to thank all of you as taxpayers, and we will continue serving with passion, striving and aspiring to become a world-class revenue agency, serving with passion to positively impact the livelihood of every Namibian. Thank you very much. Brand Africa, thank you very much. We are deeply humbled. Thank you.
That, I think, brings my part of the job to the end, and I'm going to hand over back to Josie.
I think just as a collective congratulatory, effort, let's give all of our winners a round of applause. Now we have one final item remaining on our program, and I think for all of us that is the exciting part, and it's to hear from all of the leaders in the branding space what their thoughts are on specific aspects of what brands are and the impact that they can have on the economy of Namibia. Our panel discussion for this morning is, of course, under the theme, Building World-Class Homegrown Brands for Jobs, Growth, and Global Influence. Now, in no particular order, I'd like to invite our very first panelist. Please do come onto the stage as I call you. Can our sound team please prepare microphones so that we are able to hear our panelists better? The first panelist is, of course, a brand strategist with deep expertise in national image building and a consultant to Brand Namibia unit. Ladies and gentlemen, Ialo Hamata. Let's give Ialo a round of applause. I see Ialo also has a touch of orange on her scarf, which means she's paid her tax. And I hope the rest of you have done so as well. Now, another panelist is, of course, a veteran marketing and brand leader known for his role in building MTC into one of Namibia's most admired brands. The man in blue, Temekanjo. Joining us on stage as well, media analyst and managing director of Namdia, providing deep insights into audience and brand intelligence in Namibia, Natasha Bielefeld. And last but not least, founder of Brand Africa and recognized as Africa's leading branding authority, he has led the Brand Africa 100 ranking since 2011, spanning over 30 African nations. Tebe Ikalafing. I'm just going to ask the panelists who are behind me, if you could just move up so that your view or the audience view is not obscured. Now, before we do get into any of the deep and thought-provoking questions, perhaps any remarks on the winners that we have seen gracing our stage tonight. Tim, we can start with you. And of course, maybe just give us your opinions on the brands celebrated here today, but also what purpose this award ceremony can actually serve.
Yeah, so very impressed with Top Score. I've been following their works. The one thing we do at MTC is we always ask our guys, who is behind us? Who are the guys that are doing well? And Top Score consistently came up, so I'm not surprised. I'm very thankful that we're celebrating legacy brands as well, like Windhoek Lager, because it shows consistency. But just my insights is we have a lot of potential brands that just needs a bit of leadership so that we can extract the best out of those brands. And it all boils down to leadership. So hopefully this inspires the leaders that are sitting in this room, especially at the top, to give support to the marketing executives to invest in those brands. Thank you.
Natasha?
Yes. Yes, no, I'm extremely proud of the One Economy Foundation. I know Madam Gangos, she put her heart and her soul into the project for the last 10 years. And her late husband was also so proud and supportive of her. And I think it really illustrates what good leadership does, and then the team that supports you in that journey. If you look at, even brands like the old Harvard List brands, that's where Windhoek Beer is from. And your model Pick and Pay, which was also mentioned. So I think legacy leadership, surrounded by the right team, sharing that vibrant passion, that's what we've seen in most of the brands here today. Even Mr. Tim in his fantastic self-equipped outfit. I am honestly so impressed. How cool is this outfit? We can give you a hand of applause. I know you hate it. But really living and breathing brand, I think it's admirable. And as you said, you are inspired by the brands that are admired, and so are we.
Tebe, you have been telling us exactly what your thoughts are on the importance of branding. So I'm going to skip you for this exercise, but Yellow, your thoughts before we dive into the questions.
I'm particularly impressed by Windhoek Lager and Top Score in that power in the kick, and obviously the 100% purely brewed in Namibia brand that has been around before my time, before many of us in this room. I just want to say that it's really that the key is really investing back into the community, which operates a positive operates in a positive feedback loop, and that's what these two brands have done. If you look at MTC, I think they have quite an impressive budget there by CSR. If you look at Top Score, always doing community outreach. If you look at NBL in general, the mother brand, always doing that community work, reinvesting back. So I think the awards today are very well deserved.
Thank you very much. Now, the first question that I would like to ask is around the idea of vision and nation building. And this one I will direct to you, Natasha. Many of the Namibia's top brands started as local ventures with big aspirations. Now, how have these homegrown brands balanced profitability with contributing to Namibia's economic growth and, more importantly, job creation?
Again, if we look at brands in specific and where they started years ago, your Boerman and Brock that got celebrated, your old Harvard List group of companies, the emphasis is always on the people that we empower. And if your legacy is to really look into the people that are working for brand, then it will always be an inspiration, not only for job creation, but also for the upliftment of your communities that are vulnerable. So we've seen real good investments in women, in the youth, by these brands that have been mentioned today, and that's what's propelling them forward. they are getting the right audience, they are empowering the right people that will inevitably become the future of the country. And I mean, we see it in our leadership now, even in politics and with our ministers, you know. I think our president really grasps that it is, and it starts with good leadership. And if content is king, then brand and leadership is queen.
Wonderfully said. Yellow, we're going to move on to you, and we want to take a look at the aspect of competing globally while still remaining rooted locally, which is an important aspect of branding and the basis upon which it is, I think, Tebe has decided to celebrate African brands. As Namibian brands expand beyond borders, how do they maintain their local identity while still meeting international standards and consumer expectations?
Firstly, I'd like to thank Tebe and his team for celebrating these African brands. Not many times do we celebrate ourselves. If you look at the numbers, and numbers really do not lie, if you look at the numbers, our brands. So for me, it's also really just the fact that, you know, as brands expand internationally, they must not forget about their local audience. Truly keeping that local identity, because that's what makes them. Because if you are born and you are bred here, if there's no value for you here, then there won't be value for you outside. And it's also really that association of back to country of origin. If you look at Windhoek, it's in the name. Everything is reflected back to Namibia. Windhoek Lager, meaning brewed in Windhoek. And even if someone is looking outside, so what is this Windhoek Lager? What is it about? What is Windhoek? They find that it's the capital city of Namibia. So for me, it's really in that. Going international, but remaining true to your local identity.
And then, Tim, with your wonderful outfit again, we want to look at a concept that really, I think everyone will agree, MTC has put at the forefront of its operations, which is this idea of job creations, but also skills development. And my question to you is basically looking at homegrown brands and the role they play as a crucial partner in creating employment. Obviously, we understand government cannot do it alone. Now, what strategies have winning brands such as MTC implemented to upskill Namibian talent and create sustainable job opportunities?
Yeah, no, thank you. Before I answer that question, I think I want to dispel the myth that the more profit you make, the better your brand is going to be. It's absolutely no relationship. It's really about what your vision is as a brand, what do you want to become. We have so many companies in Namibia making a lot of money, and they have given absolutely zero to the citizens of this country. And in most cases, you'll find them, because they are also South African brands, you'll find them with packaging that has CSI marketing stuff of what they do in SA, unashamedly. And I think we need to start calling them out to say you are operating here and therefore you must invest here. We are so addicted to, you know, at the end of the year, we want to go and give dividend checks so that we can just get into the paper. But it's not about that anymore. A true brand is a brand that is able to give back to its citizens and make sure that Namibia becomes a better country. I cannot tell you what big brands must do, but I can tell you what we do. From a skills perspective, firstly, we must understand that building a brand is from the inside. You must first make sure that you transform your staff members from being just staff members to ambassadors. They must wear the brand, sleep the brand, and believe in the brand. And then, of course, we have grown our staff numbers from, I think, about a couple of years ago, from 400. We're now almost at 1,000 employees. And then we've started stuff like the National Internship Program, where we try and make sure that this whole internship blockage is well taken care of. I think we have about 48,000 students that need internships on an annual basis. And that's why we started this program. We started an initiative called MTC for Life, where we're taking unemployed youth and we're saying to them, let's give you the skill to become a hairdresser, let's give you the skill to become a barber, let's give you all these skills. We train you, we link you up with a bank that gives you the loan, and we say to you, this is the package, go and start your own business. I think we must dispel this narrative. I think it's also partly built in our education system, that once you have graduated, you must go and look for a job. We must start changing the culture about self-employment, and especially about blue-collar jobs, where people can go in and make a living by becoming plumbers, by becoming electricians, and all of that stuff. So these are just some of the initiatives that we have implemented to ensure that we contribute to job creation.
And I think that can serve as a blueprint for a lot of other brands that are here thinking of ways in which it is they can pour back into society. And as we've seen with the profit margins, latest ones for MTC, we buy a lot of airtime because we know the airtime comes back into society.
As you should, yeah.
Tebe, let's talk about leveraging Namibia's unique strengths, right? And from natural resources that we own to cultural heritage that Namibia is absolutely rich in, Namibia has distinct advantages, actually, if we think about it. How have leading brands harnessed these assets to build a competitive edge in global markets, particularly?
It's such an important question. I've advised nation brands in several countries across the continent, and one of the things that we always explain to them is you can only compete from who you are. Do not try and become somebody else. So Tom Peters, Michael Porter, who is a competitiveness guru in the world, said many years ago, he says, competitiveness is not about being better than the other country. It's about being different from the other country. So it's about trying to understand what makes Namibia different. So if you look at just next door, your friends from Botswana, they said we're going to use diamonds as our main differentiator. And we're going to go through the entire value chain of diamonds and use that as an anchor of our country brand. You look at, you go to Kenya, Kenya, South Africa, they always compete about who's got the better big five, whose bigger fives are bigger than the bigger fives. And I always say to him, that's not the basis of competition. You need to find what it is that you do different from everybody else. But as a continent-wise and a country, is we need to try and understand that what makes us different is who we are. We cannot compete with Italians at being Italian, but we can beat them at being Namibians. And that's what we need to focus our energies on. And I think the second, another part I want to mention, just build on to what you said about the country of origin. How country of origin is such an important differentiator. Because what we know is that brands of a country, more often than not, become the vector of how we see the countries. So that's why it's so important to identify and to focus on those brands of Namibian origin and leverage those brands to build an identity of Namibia. Now, if you look at whenever the US fights with Samsung, so when Samsung fights Apple in America, who wins? Apple. When Apple fights Samsung in Korea, South Korea, who wins? South Korea. Because it means that as a country, we must come together around and to defend our brands and to enable our brands. And what you're looking now from when America talks about national interest, they're saying, let's put our brands forward. So one of the things that I'm driving now going forward is this Buy Local, Buy Africa Act. So I'm saying to countries, especially the countries which are driving this nation brand, I said, agenda, I said, let us put a legislation in place that says, as the Americans did it in 1933. So in 1933, the Americans said, at least 50% of any procurement by any entity that is linked to the government must come from local. And I think Namibia is one of the countries which, in a way, have led in somewhat. Because I think many years ago, a few years ago, you legislated whether 30% on the shelves must be made in Namibia. And to me, that's the agenda that we need to drive. Because when you see that and we're investing in local brands, when you're investing in what makes us different, you begin to create that identity. When the minister spoke about the identity of Namibian, it's not just in the values and all those, but it's how those values manifest through the brands that we support. So when you see Facebook, you see Apple, you see Google, you're seeing the entrepreneurial spirit of America. So it's trying to understand how that value translates into your brands. If you're looking at Siemens, you're looking at Mercedes and all those, you're looking at the engineering value of Germany, how that manifests through Made in Germany. So it's about understanding what does Made in Namibia mean. What is the ingredient that we put into our products? And I think maybe I'll leave it. I also wanted to comment to Tim's earlier comment about the brands the big brands, not just about the big brands. But that's why next year, what we focus on next year, we're going to introduce a next generation brand, a category. Because we now want to, because we understand the MTZs of the world are going to be very strong. They know what it takes to do that. We now need to inspire the next generation. Having said so, in countries like South Africa, the #1 brand in South Africa was created 10 years ago. So last year's #1 brand was Batu. This year's #1 brand was Galaxy Boy. They beat MTN flat down. They beat the Standard Banks of the world flat. It shows that the young people, learning from the old people, can create great brands. Because what they bring in relevance. They bring in an ability to understand the mood of the country, the entrepreneurial spirit of the country into the ingredients. But next year we want to do that to look at that next generation.
Thank you, Tebe. I would like to move over to Natasha, and here we're venturing into the space of innovation in a rather resource-restrained economy. We understand that as a country we face a lot of infrastructural and funding challenges, and it's about motivating brands currently on how it is they can innovate to overcome these limitations and perhaps maybe scale efficiently.
I think so. We've done pretty well in the fintech industry. I think we rank 70th in the world in terms of new startups. And we can see banks, especially I know Capricorn Bank, Windhoek, most of the actors in the financial industry really implementing this as a desire for innovation. So with bringing to the board, experts' advice and the youth where they can really start investing in all the new tools available, all the new startups that we have in the country available. I think we've been really embracing that as a new field where how can we get the different actors from UNAM universities, tertiary institutions, business incubators, our new mentorship programs that we have, talent attraction and development projects that we have that are doing really, really well. I think that all has the bigger goal of growing from bottom to top and just re-evaluating our strengths and pulling together new talent to bring that necessary innovation that we need for the various sectors. Yes, there are parts of it that we share, but there are parts of innovation that's very unique to your sector of business. But it's definitely discussed in the boardroom, and it's, like you said, not just about profit, it is the triple P, and it's getting the right people at the right time on board and listening, taking advice, networking, not performing in isolation, brands collaborating with other brands, and actually promoting other brands, working together. So that at the end, I think, is part of the strength of this village we call Africa and Namibia, is that, let's say, it takes a village, it takes a nation, it takes various hands joining to be able to be a successful business. And I think, for example, Bank Windhoek illustrated that very well in a recent campaign they launched. And we can learn from that. I think we can continue to teach each other like we did at the MTC Marketing in Durban, and continue having these conversations on a political, economic, and social level.
Thank you very much, Natasha. And building on the aspect of the importance of collaborations, Yalo, my question to you is centered around public-private partnerships for the purposes of growth, especially for brands. When we look at collaborations between government and businesses, the important thing to remember is that that collaboration can, of course, then accelerate brand success. Now, what role should policymakers play? And here we are hopefully talking directly to the minister. What role can policymakers play in nurturing Namibia's next generation of world-class brands?
Thank you for speaking directly to the minister. But the role is really that if you look at the new administration, The new administration is really focused on entrepreneurship, building on to what Team and all my colleagues here have said, that we can provide jobs. As employers, we can provide jobs, but we also need to provide opportunities and platforms for entrepreneurs to be creative and to do and to actually build for themselves. So what the public-private partnerships can do is they need to build an ecosystem where it can be, even if it's through tax incentives, it can be through developing the infrastructure, it can be through basically anything, just creating an ecosystem where entrepreneurs or the next gen has somewhere to go and something to do. If you look at countries like South Korea, they have platforms where entrepreneurs come in and develop their products or develop their services, platforms that are made available to them through this public-private partnerships, because government alone cannot fund this, and private entities alone also cannot. So it needs to be a collaboration of both the public and the private sector.
Fantastic. Tebe, you look like you want to add something. Okay, fantastic. Tim, let's look at sustainable and ethical branding, because ethics is also generally a very important part of the idea of branding, but also the growth and the impact that it has within a nation. Global consumers demand sustainability. Now, how are Namibian brands embedding ethical practices into their supply chains to attract international investors and buyers?
Yeah, so one of the biggest things in sustainability at the moment is, especially when it comes to telecommunications, is this whole thing of protecting children's rights. You see, and sometimes we do it without realizing that it's an ethical matter. You see a lot of brands that would use the faces of kids and without consent. Even if you are a foundation, you must always ensure that you protect the rights of children. One of the biggest things when it comes to the ICT sector at the moment is online abuse. It is, the fact that you need to enable students with iPads, but they're also exposed to all the other online things that you find on there. So we need to find a way how we can protect our children. So that's one of the, I think, the biggest things. But I think when you're a brand, you have to ask yourself, how am I going to continue operating in the most responsible manner, but make sure that after 10 or 20, 30 years, I leave my industry or my country in a better state than I found it? I think that is the most paramount question that we all have to ask ourselves. Because what's the use of milking the country 10, 20, 30 years, there are no more rhinos, or you cannot see the stuff that we used to enjoy nowadays. The future generations cannot go and enjoy that. So I think sustainability is very important. It's not just about reporting on your profits, but it's really about how have you left your industry, how have you left your people and your country. And I think that's the most important thing.
Wonderfully said. Tebe, let's talk about export strategies and market expansion. Now, breaking into international markets in itself is a tough feat. What key lessons can Namibian brands share about successfully exporting products or services while still maintaining quality?
First, I must say, and this came from AFDB recently, that we import over $150 billion of food every year into Africa. Now, for a continent that accounts for 65% of the world's arable land, it is inexcusable. So we are leaving the opportunities here at home and running overseas to bring stuff here instead of looking other way. I was telling you, I was in New York 48 hours ago, and somebody said something so profound that I thought I must remember this all times. He said, we are always being asked to come try and fight for a seat at the table. He says, we need to remind them that their table is made from the wood from our countries. The food they're serving is from the raw material, the raw foods that they import from our country. The knives and forks that they are using from the iron that they get from our countries. So we have the opportunities here, we have the materials here in our country to feed the world instead of always asking the world to feed us. When it comes to what we can export, if you're looking at the exports from a continent, they've been falling consistently over the last few years because we are importing rather than exporting. We are net importers and exporters, and that's not going to work. That's not going to be able to sustain. What lessons do we have? Well, you've got right here, Windhoek, as an example. Windhoek Lager. And what I love about it, which you said, is that it's something that Fela Kuti said before he died. They asked him, why have you named all your children Yemi, Femi, all those names, those Nigerian Yoruba names? And he said, I want to make sure that, he says, understand something. They may never all live in Nigeria. They may travel the world and even live in other parts of the world. But what will happen is, when they do well elsewhere in the world, they'll be raising the flag of our country when they mention their names. So Windhoek, as an example, raises the flag of Namibia. And that's why even when you're looking at the brands, we don't look at the brands in terms of where they are listed and who owns the shares. We look at the brands who birthed them and who created the idea of that brand. So you've got here the excellence of a Windhoek Lager, which is what we talk about, homegrown imagination and global excellence. And that's what we are capable of in terms to show that we can create great brands. And we have them here. We have them. It's about how do we take them. If you're looking at the success I said earlier, even the Bank Windhoek, you see it in Botswana, you see it in many other countries now expanding, using the brand from here out, taking the excellence from here and sharing with the rest of the world. Looking at MTC, it's an opportunity to expand and ask yourself, if you are such a great brand, which you are, and you're doing so well, which you do, 48,000 internship is phenomenal. And I was just listening, I said, did he say 48,000 or just 48? Because to me, that is phenomenal, because you're investing in the future, but you're investing off of the base of a really strong brand. The question is, how do we take that excellence to the next countries? And that's what we need to do. To me, I think that's what we need to export. We need to export brands that take who we are into the rest of the world. And it is not just in the name, because as I've said, Google, Facebook don't have America in them, but they've got the values of America in them. So does a Windhoek, an MTC, in the same way that a Windhoek Lager have. They've got the values of Namibian enterprise, Namibian humanity into them, Namibian benevolence into them, and take that into the world.
Thank you very much, Tebe. As we start to round off our panel discussion for this morning, Natasha, we cannot have this panel discussion without talking about youth entrepreneurship and succession planning, because that's an important part of making sure that brands outlive the people that even created them, right? Now, the next generation of entrepreneurs will shape Namibia's brand future. How can they establish brands, and particularly in the space of mentoring young innovators to ensure that there's a continuity of fresh ideas?
I think that's probably the most obvious challenge we have. So there are many youth coming to me and just asking for mentorship. And I know you've got the Namibia Economist Katuka mentorship program. You've got Minds that specifically give bursaries to, let's say, 48 engineers to develop those skills. You do have ground foundations for those that want to start off. Just one small example, let's make it local. My friend Gloria, she started Gloria's Hot Sauces. And she was an administrator. She made $5,000 in a month. And she started showing me her sauces. And she took it up from a little garage business to where the NCCI now, just in the past month, took it to Hong Kong, and she just had a platform to see how can I diversify my product packaging, thinking about sustainability. She first had the sauce, then she dried the product. Now she's got the chili powders and she's got the pastes. And it's so inspirational. We're talking about a chili sauce company, but it could be anything to do with new technology, or yes, using your online smart applications to develop new products, consult. I mean, you've got youth building websites now without any coding skills or new software solutions. That wasn't an option before. So I think what our youth need is just somebody that believes in them and that gives them that platform and that gives them those recommendations. Yes, make friends with your business breakfasts and fellow female leadership, or most of the tutors I had or mentors in my life were senior men in the finance industry, because that's where I needed leadership. So I think we really need to cultivate that curiosity in our youth to form part of, just apply. There's nothing worse than no that can happen. And to see these young ladies inspired and to just go through all of the no's before making that groundbreaking yes, that's what we need to teach the youth, is keep on going, try every possible platform that there is for your personal development and your skills upliftment. And then as you journey through that, take somebody else along the journey. It's easy to learn, but it's tough to be a mentor. I think the most obvious issue we all struggle with is HR. So how do you bring people with you on that journey? And yes, you will be disappointed or disencouraged, but good leadership is keeping everybody on the same par. So from the cleaner to the CEO, we all need to be motivated. So I think if our youth know that there are avenues for them for extended support, and it's not just secluded to one sector. I mean, you can be multifunctional, but an expert in one area. And that's the type of, I think, skill set that we're all moving towards.
Thank you very much, Natasha. Yalo, my final question for you before we do, of course, give our rounding off thoughts is regarding the future of Namibian brands in the AFC FTA era. Now, for those who are not aware, the AFC FTA stands for African Continental Free Trade Area. And they've, of course, opened new opportunities, as research has shown. Now, how should Namibian brands position themselves to dominate regional and continental markets?
Thank you, Josie. I want to go back to a very interesting two words, basically, that the Honorable Minister mentioned in the beginning, that there's what is called an initiative called the Brand Namibia, similar to Brand South Africa, Brand Kenya, Visit Rwanda, all of that. So I think that it's time for us as Namibians to tell our story to the global audience. And this initiative was really created to position Namibia as a place to live, a place to invest, a place to visit, and a place to develop. So with that said, I want to close off by saying that there are a lot of opportunities for local brands. There are a lot of opportunities for local brands to leverage off of this Africa Continental Free Trade Area. However, we need to be very cognizant of the fact that even though we already have our brands, our services, and our products that we are already producing within the country, we need to meet the standards of our neighboring countries, because you cannot export a product that is not to the standard of who you're exporting to. So really, it's really for Namibians to embrace this opportunity. Our first container left, I think, end of June with salt. And that just opened up an opportunity for us to trade within Africa, Africa for Africans. That's my close off. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Yalo. Tebe, before, of course, we do have Tim closing off our panel discussion, very important conversation to have is around the idea of the ability to access funding and investment. We're telling people to build brands. Where is the money supposed to come from? Now, we understand that scaling a brand requires capital. And what financing models or venture capital, private equity, or government grants have been most effective for Namibian brands that have gone global?
I'll give you an example. We never knew of an Alibaba before. But when Amazon wanted to get into China, the Chinese said, can you just give us a little bit of space so we can just create a room for our children to learn how to play? And then when Alibaba was well-resourced and doing well, the Chinese says, we are now open for business. And when Amazon came in, they're like, oh, but we can't compete. The local brand is so strong. So the point is, it's a private-public partnership. You need government to create an enabling environment. To me, that's the first thing. But the biggest thing of where we're going to get the money is if you get Namibians to buy Namibia, because then the money is here. The problem we don't have money is because the money leaves the shores every week. And I mean, they didn't kick me out of the country, but I was explaining something I learned from the Americans 2 days ago, that what's the brand that closed again, that gives money away?
That gives money away,
Oh.
SME Bank.
No, I mean the American, the one that Elon Musk brought down. I forget the name. USAID. So USAID, the billions that they closed, we should thank Donald Trump. The reason we should thank Donald Trump is because Donald Trump has done the right thing. He cannot be the world's nanny. He's decided he's going to nanny Americans so that we can nanny ourselves. Because for every dollar that they bring into the country, 65% of it goes right back to America. So we actually are not benefiting from the aid. So where the money is, the money lies here. Get Namibians to buy Namibia, then the money will be here. Get government to create an enabling environment, then the money will be here. To me, that's all I want to say, is that put your national interest first, and then you will see Namibian brands thriving.
Thank you, Tebe. And last but not least, Tim, as the final question for our panel. Competition is, of course, a necessary part of brand building existence, but also success. However, sometimes, especially new emerging brands, might struggle with understanding the concept of healthy competition. How do we compete with fellow Namibian brands while still ensuring that all brands succeed and then also represent the Namibian identity well?
I suppose competition is always going to be there. But we must always understand when it comes to social matters, there can be competition. We should change it from competition to supporting each other. And I always say this, especially in the financial industry, when we speak about social projects, we speak about collaborating. Especially the banks, they will tell you we don't sit next to each other. And then I say to them, we must get to a point where we distinguish between sponsorships, which is where I give you something and I want something back, and CSI. There can't be any competition when it comes to CSI. And that's why you'll see that the MTC for Life project, the MTC internship project, all of those projects have now been nationalized. We're saying, as if we are going to, if the objective is to do good for Namibia, then we must all come together. Whether you are FNB, whether you're Standard Bank, whether you're Capricorn, whether you're Paratus, whether you're MTC, we're doing it for the good of the country. That's the one corner. Then the other corner is where you do brand building, and that's where you can compete, as long as that competition is healthy. But I think we must also get to a stage where we build national platforms like we've now done for the MTC branding and marketing in Durban, which is also going to be nationalized this next year, where everybody must come together and say, how do we teach each other in terms of building great brands? Because it doesn't help we have MTC, we have Windhoek Lager, we have ONL, and a few. If we can multiply the greatness of Namibian brands, it makes it easier for them to go and build brand Namibia. So those are the collaborations that we must talk about and that we must agree on as a country. But I think in some spaces, yes, there must be competition as long as it is healthy. But when it comes to matters of the heart that beats the heart and soul of Namibians, there we must come together as Namibia, because that speaks of our identity, it speaks of who we are and where we want to go to. Thank you.
Thank you very, very much, Tim, Tebe, Natasha, as well as Ialo. Let's give them a round of applause for stellar panel discussion. I think we will be doing the photo session with the panelists as well as the Honorable Minister as soon as we are done. As you can see from my nose, it's sweating. That's the amount of heat that was on the stage from all of our panelists. So to give me a moment to cool down, I'd like to invite Lazarus Jacobs to deliver the closing remarks, and thereafter we'll of course be closing off our event and breakfasts will be served. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I said the other day, the most dangerous position to be in is to be between a person and their meal. I know you're very hungry, so I will not be very long. On Saturday, I attended a stand-up comedy event, and one of the South African comedians, Lois Ogola, said something. It was a joke, but it was very profound. He said, "You Namibians are so arrogant. You took the best beer you produced and named it after your city." And he said, "You know, our beer is called Windhoek." And he said, "I can't imagine a beer called Joburg." So it's a very, very important that we continue with this journey. Like I said in my opening remarks, this is about partnership. Paragon was because of my relationship with Tebe, and I saw the vision when he called upon us to assist Paragon Media. I said, I didn't even hesitate to do that. And it's also very important to realize that, like he said in his openings, he's very humble about this, but he has spent all his money, all the work that he does, he invests in Brand Africa. When you invite Tebe to come to an event or to do anything that's got to do with Africa or Brand Africa, he will not send you an invoice. The first thing he will ask you is, when is it? And what do you want me to talk about? That's the mentality that he has. So it was against that background when we were organizing this particular event. I said to Tebe, we need to get more partners in here. And the first thing I thought of, the first company I thought about was MTC. As Tim articulated, they did the brand and marketing in Daba here. And I called them and I said, look, we know Namibians like to manufacture controversy where there's none. And I said to him, Tim, we really, MTC, we need assistance. Tebe is investing so much in Brand Africa. He wants to do something about Brand Namibia. But we called quite a few companies and they are really reluctant to assist. Nobody makes money from this event, nobody. And Tim, when you heard his vision for MTC and in terms of branding, he said MTC will assist wherever Brand Namibia need to be mentioned, whatever we need to do for Brand Namibia. So, and I know, like I said, you like controversy. You say, oh, is that why MTC won? MTC did not win because they assisted. MTC won, as you can see, their brand is well articulated, and they are not the only company that has won, by the way. So next year, Tebe and I will approach all of you to assist in making this a success. Brand Africa is a non-profit organization. Nobody makes money from this. Their whole vision is to make sure that we push African brands and Namibian brands, but African brands, one brand at a time in one African country at a time. So I just want to say thank you very much for our partners. I can't thank myself being Paragon, but I want to say thank you very much. And there's a lot of people who are working behind the scenes to make sure that this event is a success. So I want to say thank you. Please give them a round of applause for that. But also, most importantly, it's very important that we have stakeholders in leadership, in policy. I remember one day we